Welcome to this week's Morphmarket Auctions, ending anywhere between today, Friday, March the 7th, and Sunday, March the 9th. Just in case anybody missed it, we are changing our format up a little bit, meaning that we're going to start doing our auctions still every single week, but every other week we're going to switch that up so that it doesn't have a recorded video, and instead we're going to go live on Thursday when I'm normally recording this. And of course the VOD, the replay of the entire episode, will go live immediately right afterwards, so you can still check it out on Friday just like normal. So without wasting any further time, let's go ahead and get right into it with this Hurricane Mahogany Leopard Clown. That's a really cool animal that, while has an incredibly dark dorsal stripe, flirts with some pretty cool color here. The belly of this animal is incredibly crisp and orange. The head, you see it throughout that with the cool head stamp on there too. Just a really nice burnt orange there. And you see this faded, awesome pattern. It's got like this M on its head. What is that from? It's an anime. Oh, Dragon Ball, the Majin thing. I don't watch too much anime, but I know what that is. And look at the burnt oranges on the side of it and the cool blushing just kind of popping up with the little bits of whites in there, the really dark orange, and then this deep black that kind of borders all of it. And then again, within the pattern itself, you have this nice yellow fading into a nice burnt orange. Again, really dark dorsal stripe. A lot of cool contrast here, especially if you love the colors black and orange, which, I mean, who the heck doesn't? This is a really cool snake. It does have a reserve price and some good interest in it, but you kind of walk this up to what you want. So let's just say you're willing to spend $1,000 on it. Do it in maybe $25 increments, because maybe it drops off at $800 and you could have potentially got it for cheaper. So kind of walk it up until that reserve price pops off, or until you reach your personal limit. And if it doesn't drop the reserve price, no harm, no foul, because then the sale becomes null and void if it does not reach that reserve price. Still a really cool animal. A lot of upside on this, and a very colorful animal. Moving along to this Spotnose Confusion Clown. Boy, this is really cool. Confusion is an amazing gene. Spotnose an amazing gene. You can kind of see what it does. They both influence the head. The pattern is absolutely wild on this. This is the sort of stuff I definitely would like to make. I suspect this one will go for a little bit more. Having Spotnose in there is incredible. We just got our Confusion Clown and we're very happy with him. He's already breeder ready. But if I had to pick the only gene that I wish he had in him already, it would have been Spotnose. But of course we can make that here, and that's what we plan to do, is add that into that combo in many other ways too. So that's not like a difficult thing to do, but this is a very powerful animal in the fact that Confusion Clowns are still very highly sought after, and the combos made with them are incredible. So yes, very clown heavy, the Confusion, but we've shown in our entire video where we unboxed our Confusion boy what else you can do with those. And honestly, there's a lot you can do. I think we showed off a Dreamsicle one. It's not just clown that this goes well with, it goes well with a lot. And getting a Confusion really made me realize it's not just a pattern thing. It doesn't just affect the head. The belly is obviously amazing. They're always amazing. I wish they showed you a picture of the belly on this one here. But what it does to the color, it changes it. You don't think about it because the pattern is so dominant in terms of what you're talking about. The head pattern, the belly, they really dominate what you're talking about, but the colors are different. The shading is different. Everything is different with Confusion. It's a really cool gene that's really powerful, and it's really useful in just about everything. Next up would be this Leopard Yellowbelly Lavender Albino Pied. So you get a Dreamsicle here. Lots of interest still in animals like this. People have been seeking Dreamsicles for a long time. They pop quite a bit. Albino Pieds are amazing, but Dreamsicles, I think the contrast is even better, because what you get, especially as the animal ages, is not a two-toned yellow with some white blotches. You get an orange to yellowish snake that will eventually kind of fade with a lavender rather than the whites, which kind of bleed in the albino pies. Trust me, I make them every year and they're very beautiful, but there's a large variety in them. I noticed it. I actually kept one here that has wonderful contrast, but a lot of them kind of bleed into a two-toned yellow, but they still have those nice blotches. So there's still great contrast, but this has good contrast with the whites that are normally coming in from the pied, but just on itself, just with the cool patterns that it brings in. That white does not bleed into anything besides a nice lavender, which is really great and pops. This being a girl is even better. And again, I'm going to say it again at the risk of sounding like a broken record, but if you can get blackhead into this, blackhead lavender albinos are so awesome. They just have so much great contrast, and they have an underlying glow to them, and it's incredible. So that would be my recommendation, is to get blackhead into this combination right here. Next would be a really good opportunity for someone, especially if you wanted to work Sunset, in this Spotnose 100% Het Sunset. The Spotnose is very obvious on this animal. Look at that head pattern. And what's even cooler is that this has some pretty good size to it. It is nearly there. It won't be ready this season, but you could probably easily get this animal ready by the next breeding season for you. And you could be theoretically producing visual sunsets if you've already got a male, especially if it's a visual, but you could work head to head. Not the most ideal thing, but you know, you do have decent odds to at least hit one visual, and this would be a really nice one to do that with. Just like it says here, it should be ready to breed in the fall for the next season, and you could take advantage of this nearly to size girl. You are basically taking out 2.5 years worth of average work of the cost of feeding the animal. It will raise in price, but I suspect that honestly, this will still be a steal. I think it will go for over 500 if I had to guess. If you're into the Sunset project, if you like Sunset and you're still just kind of getting started, this would be a wonderful, wonderful animal to get to start adding to your ability to produce visual sunsets. Staying on the tune of animals that are nearly ready would be none other than this Stranger Redstripe Het Clown girl. A lot of really cool genetics here. A Stranger and Redstripe go very well together. You can see that underlying rustiness to it. The fact that Stranger brings in all of these really awesome granulations, the shadowing and the darkness to it really pairs well with the Redstripe. Like I said, Redstripe is a genetic that can be very difficult to determine on its own sometimes for an untrained eye, and by itself is not all that incredible, quite frankly. It's another one of those genetics that I like to say has incredible potential in combos. It is one of those types of genetics that is just incredible with combos, and like I said, just with Stranger, you can definitely see this orangish, rusty look coming through it. The fact that she is Het Clown is just even more amazing. She is very close to breeding. Quite frankly, you could probably start pairing, and by the time she starts eating, she could get to size. Now, I don't like that idea myself, but to each their own. Regardless, she could easily pair mid-year if you really wanted to go off cycle. She would be ready here very shortly to breed. Does this have the potential to go a little bit higher? Well, maybe more than a little bit. I would be very surprised to see this go for under 1,000, quite frankly, but there's so much potential here. I am kind of interested. And though you are dealing with big dollars here, it is free shipping. So this would be a pretty nice one to consider. I like the look of it. Everything about it is beautiful. The fact that she is Het Clown, there's so much extra potential you could go to this. Put to one of your powerhouse males and make some really, really amazing animals with really all the work of growing her out taking it out for you. Another one from the same breeder, and this one is proven, would be this Leopard Dreamsicle. We talked about Dreamsicles earlier. This one might go for cheaper than the other Dreamsicle, but it's very beautiful. You know, take a look at how vibrant and beautiful it is, and then I want you to see something else here. We're gonna zoom in. Look at those eyes. That thing looks like it's in shed to me, and it still looks this darn good. So the fact that all of the work has been taken out for you, she is a proven breeder, she's ready to go, and also she was a proven breeder that was purchased from Conda, so you know the quality is A+. If you are looking for some proven breeders or looking to get into these projects much, much quicker, this is a really good idea. For people who have already delved deep into these projects, maybe something like this wouldn't help you, but if you're just getting started and you need to learn, but yet you still want to make awesome things while you're doing it, that's the way to do it in my opinion. And nowadays breeders are way more affordable than when I started, especially for combos like this. Nowadays, these combos, their babies now have 3 or 4 extra genetics in them and look like straight fire. And that's the ones that these breeders now are making room for, sending these out. So definitely something to consider. She's very beautiful, she's proven, and she's a Conda baby at that. So lots of upside to this if you wanted to work the Dreamsicle project. Taking a quick break, take a look at the Hognoses here. There's not a whole lot as usual, but I do want to show off one of them, even though there are some really nice ones here, and mostly because one looks beautiful, and two, it's the most hognosy of all hognose pictures ever. Now, normally we like these nice, beautiful, professional pictures, right? But every now and again, this is perfection. Perfect in every possible way. They're derpy, they're weird. This is a hognose. And look at this picture. This is peak hognose. This might look scary. I can guarantee you this is the derpiest animal on the planet Earth, and I don't mean that to be insulting in any way, shape, or form. Paragon reptile, my hat goes off to you. And now we're going to talk about the animal, now that we admire the beautiful pictures that describe perfectly what a hognose is. Albino Conda, extreme red. So albino is more just pure orange to darn near red, especially when you get that extreme red polygenic trait. And polygenic traits come along for the ride, and whether you hit the albino or not, by the way, they're very nice. They're very, very deep colored red, vibrant. We have one here from JMG that we are so happy with. He is albino, he's het sable. Obviously we're going for those sunburst morphs, but he is also a possible het snow. He's an extreme red. And the het snow, by the way, is the Xanthic gene. It's 50% het Xanthic. But this is a really beautiful animal. And absolutely, again, leave you with this peak Hognose. Moving back into the ball pythons here would be the Stranger Hurricane Clown. And this is a really great combination. I think I've seen, maybe not this exact one, but I've seen ones from Reptile Creations. There's a bid on this too. I believe that they probably put it up for their minimum. Probably 1,000, right? Which I always like that. I like when a breeder goes on here and says, I'm not going to put a reserve. Instead, I'm going to start the auction at my reserve. I do think that reserves have a place, and I think that they are a tool that should be used and utilized if people want it. But I personally prefer without the reserve. And if that's a lot of money, oh well. I mean, it's not going to sell anyways, right? If it wasn't going to sell, it's not going to sell. So to me, it just started where it was. Just my 2 cents personally, but I do think that reserves should stay because I personally think that options are a wonderful thing. Anyways, side tangent there is over. The Stranger Hurricane Clown here is amazing. Stranger is amazing in clown. Hurricane is amazing in clown. Sometimes things that are amazing don't work well together. This works well together though. Look at this cool, awesome shading. Where do we start? Let's start with the head. It has almost like a Woma python type look to it, except for the fact that it doesn't have the black part to it, but it has that shading and whatnot to it. I don't know why it brings me that sort of vibes. They're not exactly the same. You know what? Let's pull it up. Yeah, no, I was right. That's a weird picture. That's not a Woma python. There we go. Yeah, I was right in my comparison. Anyways, it's a very nice looking animal that has the same kind of vibe to it, in my opinion anyways, but the shading on this is insane. Yeah, that's why I'm getting vibes from this, is because it looks like it's a little bit striped, not quite as defined here, of course, but in a way that's actually the charm of this particular animal, in the fact that it's more granulated, and the fact that it's more spaced out, so you see these awesome like peachy whites in stark contrast with this just ever so slight dot of pitch black, like a star in the night in a way. It's definitely contrasting itself amazing, and then when you hit the back of the animal, it's just pitch black. On top of that, you get these nice orange stripes just shooting up through it like tree trunks. Very cool, very awesome animal, and a very powerful girl. A lot to love here. Stranger and Hurricane go together so darn well. It creates this Woma python type look to it. Another one from Reptile Creations here would be this Redhead Lesser Pastel Clown. Redhead is a really nice one too, and honestly, Lesser is very, very powerful. And Pastel inside of Clown can be sometimes troublesome. It's usually something that people don't look for, but in the right combinations, it's really nice. This thing is electric. Right here, by the way, it's orange, it's vibrant, it's got streaks of yellow lightning shooting through it. On top of that, it has a white belly base. The head pattern, I mean, there is none. It's just nice and sherbet orange, and that is the combination of Lesser and Redhead popping together. Redhead is one of the subtle genes that do big things. So when you put them together with things, like I was saying, Lesser is really potent. It can be difficult to work because it's so awesome, it's so beautiful. I love Lesser clowns, but it's a potent gene. It can be difficult to get it to play along with other things. But look at it here. Look what it's done. It is gorgeous. Redhead has such a high future that, you know, when you breed this, whether you're hitting lesser clowns, which will still great as pets, but if you're getting that redhead to go along for the drive, whether you hit it with lesser or not, you see what you're creating, and there's so much more potential you could create with redhead as well. Very nice animal, and so starkly beautiful. It honestly, when I first saw it, I thought it had to have banana in it. It doesn't though. Very cool, very beautiful, high quality animal. And back into the Stranger gene, you see a Stranger Clown right here. This is a pretty high potential animal for somebody, depending on what this goes for. It's still got about 2 days as of the time of recording, but kind of the same things we've talked about. Stranger has been in this video quite a bit. This is a really cool gene that as of probably 3-4 years ago was still going for $2 grand. Nowadays it's starting to get worked into the basic combos. You can get them for much cheaper. This animal will go for more. I mean, if it doesn't, it'll be a crime. But it is really cool. It's very beautiful. The fact that it's in a female is very nice because you can get a very powerhouse male to this, and you're still creating visual clowns as long as you make the partner that you'll be pairing to him a visual clown as well, which shouldn't be too difficult to get something really, really nice to put to this. Lots of cool potential. Not much to say because there's so much you could work into this. I mean, heck, I would actually recommend putting that redhead into it. In fact, we're about to get to one. So I'll come back to this little girl here so you can see kind of where my mind was going. One of my absolute favorite pieds is the Suma Pied. In fact, for a dark pied, this is my favorite. Someday I'd like to get one, but right now it's just not in the cards, I don't think. You never know, though. I'm not gonna turn my nose up at a crazy opportunity, but this is the sort of stuff I'm talking about. When I love these animals, I love this. Doesn't it look like paradoxing to a small extent? But it's not. And look at these two different types of shades of brown. It looks like you're starting to stain furniture in a way. Because look at this. This is a very deep, brownish, almost blackish, a very much more light one with some ever so slight tinges of orange. And then back to not quite as dark, but kind of a deeper brown. And as you get to the head, it becomes even more dark. I've seen ones that still have pitch black in them. They just seem to be chaotically moving throughout in terms of its coloring. But it is always awesome. It is always very beautiful, like a bronzy type color to all the way to a nearly pitch black. Incredibly beautiful animal. I love Suma Pieds just because of this stuff right here. They look like planets colliding, like it couldn't really decide on what color hue it wanted to be. So it's just said, hey, we're going to include them all and they're all beautiful. Look at this, and they just bump up against each other in such a beautiful amalgamation of this color brown. Sometimes the color brown gets a lot of crap because, well, I use the word. Some people think of brown in that sense, but it isn't. It is not. It is incredibly beautiful. Some of the most beautiful colorings that you can get are what you see here. Absolutely awesome. It looks like someone is beginning to stain furniture with an animal like this. Moving along into the Redhead Clown we have here. This is kind of what I was talking about here. Redhead just by itself is very subtle, but look what it does with a clown. You clearly see the very deep orange redhead, but what it does to the sides too is it brings in a lot of granulation. It really messes that pattern up and just kind of creates all these little dots and kind of smushes the pattern kind of together as well. Really busy, very beautiful, great examples of it. And that's why I kind of say, like, look at like where the potential is for something like this. If you put the two of these together, you're going to have one of the most insanely rusty looking snakes on planet Earth. It will look incredible, I guarantee you. Same thing with this one, reserved, so kind of bid up to where you're comfortable. I don't know where it would end, of course, but you want to kind of bid it up to where you want. So one way I like to do things is I like to put placeholders down. So sometimes I'll just say, okay, well, let's just see what it's like. It's going to remind me with an hour to go. And in fact, Morphmarket added more reminders, which I actually very much like. So you'll get a reminder with an hour to go. Now you'll get a reminder with 30 minutes to go, and you'll get a reminder with 10 minutes to go, so that you can kind of go about your day and you can start to join and see where things are at with 10 minutes prior to go. So it can remind you, and then you can get in on the game and see if you can't beat that reserve, or once the reserve is beat, if you can't beat others that are interested in this animal. The redhead is not a gene that's been worked incredibly yet, so there's still a high amount of things that you can play around with this. And it is very busy, like especially in clown. We try to keep as variety as possible, but clown is king. Clown is in everything. If I avoided clown, I don't know how much of a video we'd have in some cases. So clown is absolutely king, and it definitely shows because of how it works well with just about literally every gene out there. And that's no different with something like redhead, which is normally very subtle by itself, but it really truly brings out the potential in this subtle gene and creates something super amazing and awesome. And finally, we're going to end it on this last one, this Leopard Cypress Yellowbelly Clown. I think this one could go for a very good price, and it has a lot of potential to it. A lot of people might not think much, you know, with just, oh, it's got leopard Yellowbelly. I think that people might overlook this, but this is a very beautiful animal. Look at that head. It's just as, like we said before, it's deep red orange, and it kind of fades into this really nice magma blackish with some rust going through the middle of it, red. It really exudes an awesome deep orange, honestly, rather than a black. Like, yes, there's black outlines to it clearly, but this looks like cooling magma running throughout the spine of it. And then underneath you still have these cool, awesome yellowy sides with a tinge of orange, and then in between the breaks in the pattern, the blushing comes up with, again, this nice cool magma orange. The head is beautiful. Everything about this animal is very nice, and a lot of that is just the Cypress, the Yellowbelly, and the Leopard working together in a very beautiful animal. Of any of the ones I think might go for an absolute steal, this could be it. I could be wrong. There's a lot of time to go, and the auctions are sometimes interesting in how they play off. This one could be a steal, but I don't know. It does have a good amount of interest with 6 bids, but a lot of these are what I like to call placeholder bids, I feel. You know, people just throw $5 on there, see what it ends up as, right? So that they can be a late player in the game, see what it's like once it gets like 10 minutes left, and see where it is. Could it go for a steal? Maybe. It is a girl, which when I first picked this, I thought it was a boy, and I would probably be more inclined to say it might, but you know, a girl like this with this much power in her, if you're already putting powerhouse males to them, there's a lot of awesomeness you could do. You know, I'd love to see this in a freeway clown, you know, the leopard and the cypress, and see what awesome, beautiful oranges and bursting colors that brings in. That would be a really cool project, I think. But there's so many other avenues you could go with something like this. And that'll do it for this week's auction videos. If you've ever picked up an animal from these auctions that you've seen from us, please let us know in the comments. We always love hearing about it. But if you enjoyed this video, check out our video on some of the genetics we talked about right here and here.